300,000 to the Ukrainian Pet Alliance to market dog collars, 300,000 to Animal ID.
I'm Stephanie Keith.
And I am Tara Manjekovic, and we are unapologetically outspoken. Hey everybody, happy Friday. So once again, just a ton of shit that's come up in the last couple days. And I want to start, Stephanie, with the State Department completing their review of foreign aid. And they found nearly 15,000 grants worth $60 billion that they're planning to eliminate. And this is related to foreign aid from both the State Department itself and from USAID. So let's start with just the State Department alone, because auditors reviewed over 9,100 grants, which just blows my mind that they have that many to begin with. But these grants were worth $15.9 billion, and they identified 4,100 of them that they're going to eliminate to the tune of $4.4 billion. But of course, Stephanie, where did the bulk of these grants come from? USAID. Okay. So 5,800 grants totaling $54 billion, and most of which we've been talking about for the past few weeks. So this all came out in a memo on Wednesday from the State Department, and it said that going forward, they're going to reform the way the United States delivers foreign assistance following, quote, decades of institutional drift. I don't know about you, but I think institutional fraud is probably more accurate than drift, but whatever. At the end of the memo, it highlighted how all of the money spent going forward for any program that's funded by the United States for foreign aid is going to have to be justified by answering three questions. Does it make America safe? Does it make America stronger? And does it make America more prosperous? And I swear I cannot say it enough. I love this administration. I love the America First agenda, and I think this is fantastic.
Yeah, keep it simple. It's so simple, it's stupid, and that's exactly how it should be because things have gotten so complicated. And when they're complicated, you can weave in all types of corruption and completely take advantage of the system. So it's about
Oh,
time they
yeah.
clean house.
Well, let me both entertain you and piss you off right now with some more revelations of USAID spending, because this all came out in congressional hearings on Wednesday. And this is data that came up from one of my new favorite senators, Joni Ernst. And I am like loving all the shit she's doing right now. And she's been asking for this information for a long time. And she kept getting stonewalled by USAID and told that the information was classified. But I guess they finally allowed her staff to review documents. They had to do it in a secure room at USAID headquarters. And it turned out that none of the information was classified at all. But when you hear what it was for, it's going to make sense why they would try to hide it and pretend it's classified, because it's all complete nonsense. So this is millions of American tax dollars going to Ukraine. So to fund the war, maybe? No, not this. This isn't the aid and, quote unquote aid that Biden
This
said.
isn't included in like the 300 billion. Okay.
Right. This shit is on a whole other level. So listen to where the money was spent. 300,000 to the Ukrainian Pet Alliance to market dog collars and other pet products in the West. 300,000 to Animal ID to register and track pets. 148,000 to a Ukrainian pickle company, 319,000 to a Ukrainian meat packing plant, 150,000 to a Ukrainian knitwear company, 255,000 to a Ukrainian organic coffee and tea producer, 89,000 to a Ukrainian vineyard, and $1 million to a Ukrainian carpet company.
Once again, we are in the wrong business. We should have gone and opened up a carpet company in Ukraine and we'd probably be millionaires at this point. I don't know what we were thinking.
Yeah, even a pickle company would have been good.
Yeah, I mean, how many, US small businesses that have been struggling could have used that money maybe? Just a thought.
Yeah, exactly. And there's more, okay? Because
Oh God.
she also revealed, and I'm just going to read her direct quote. She said, "We learned that the aid intended to alleviate economic distress in war-torn nations was spent on such frivolous activities as sending Ukrainian models and designers to junkets in New York City, London Fashion Week, Paris Fashion Week, and South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. So, fashion shows, Stephanie, that's where our money has gone, fashion shows. While Americans are devastated by wildfires and train derailments and hurricanes, and like you just mentioned, small businesses here in America are not getting this kind of funding and all this other shit that's going on. We're sending money to Ukrainian models to go to Fashion Week.
I'm starting to see why Zelensky is all of a sudden agreeing to shit that he never agreed to before, because how do you defend this? I mean, it's so blatant. It's mind-boggling. Like every week I think, oh, there can't be any more surprises. No, there is. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's insane. And on top of that, there was testimony at this hearing about how USAID funneled millions of dollars through a US charity to a terrorist organization called Nusra Front, and it's a designated terrorist group in Syria. And Marjorie Taylor Greene said that USAID money ended up in the hands of the Taliban in Afghanistan and also terrorists in Palestine.
Yeah, this is way worse than we could have ever imagined. So I actually came across clips of this House Doge subcommittee hearing, and Representative Tim Burchett, he found out a ton of information where we were funding damn near every terrorist organization around the globe. So listen to some of the testimony.
We are sending $40 million a week to the Taliban. Yes, sir. Can you name other instances of foreign aid going to terrorist organizations? We have assisted Al-Shabaab in Somalia. There's been instances of the Hamzi network in Sudan, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, Kataib al-Hezbollah, Hayat Tahrir al-Shams in Syria. Dozens of terror organizations have received indirect assistance from U.S. foreign aid. Could you elaborate a little bit on the mechanisms in place that are to stop foreign aid from going to terrorist groups, and why are they not working if we have any in place? Sure. I would note that these are, you notice these are terrorist weaponry. You see some AKs, SKSs, some snipers, some clips, some foot carriers probably made in China, and I believe these are small landmines here beside right there. Let's use Gaza as our case study. $2.1 billion in American taxpayers' money to Gaza since October 7th when Hamas invaded southern Israel. USAID money was going in terms of an emergency use authorization to try to go to parties that USAID formerly had a relationship with in the Gaza Strip. They had to have been vetted by OFAC. They should have been vetted against the special designated terror list from the State Department and from other Treasury organizations. Waivers were granted because they said that there was an emergency use to have that money come in to Gaza, thereby jettisoning the usual typical screening procedures. As a result, 90% of aid that was going from the United States by way of its agents in Gaza ended up in Hamas-controlled areas. And this is ridiculous. Essentially, what the U.S. assistance to Gaza did was underwrite the ability for Hamas to survive until the ceasefire was just passed a few weeks ago. There was no strategic thought for it, and there was no screening. Seems like the emergency might have been armed terrorists to kill civilians. Would that be accurate? That's accurate, and even more than that, Samantha Powers, the administrator for USAID, was intent on having Israel not be able to defend itself. To not be able to defend it? Correct. Mr. Pramarak, is that correct? How do you say that? Pramarak? I got Burchett, man. Nobody gets mine right, so don't worry about it. What is it, Pramarak? Perfect. All right, thanks, brother. How did terrorists exploit our foreign aid loopholes?
Well, we have a lot of our
Can you
international.
pull your mic up? I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
You have international NGOs and UN agencies actively lobby here in Washington, D.C. against vetting policies that would prevent it. I was the senior vetting officer at USAID, and what we did.
Did you say United Nations is doing this? The UN?
Sure, everybody who's getting money lobbies here.
that they're lobbying against us. I'm sorry, Mr. Roman.
There's actually someone who used to work for one of those lobbies, the largest NGO lobby, Interaction. One of our co-witnesses here worked for them from 2018 to 2023. USAID effectively self-funds its own external private lobby that then goes back to Congress and asks for more money for USAID.
So the taxpayers fund this lobbyist who's working against American interests.
Correct.
Possibly killing our allies and possibly Americans.
They bring together groups in Washington that oversees work with groups that kill Americans.
Yeah, I don't need a flow chart to show that. I appreciate it. Do you think USAID programs have been aligned with the national security interests of the U.S.?
No, they have not. They have actually helped China.
Mr. Roman?
No.
Okay. How do these programs compromise our national security, Mr. Brimerick?
They actually push China. They actually push much of the world towards China on the green energy agenda. They push people, ordinary people, billions of people towards China because of the resentment caused by our social re-engineering.
Are we being lobbied by these pro-communist China groups currently?
A lot of these countries don't even have to lobby because they get the money anyway, like South Africa.
Yeah, and in fact, these lobbyists have come to the House and have tried to kill legislation like H.R. 160, which was meant to increase transparency in USAID's funding of overseas organizations.
Is that a current piece of legislation?
That's from the last session.
And give me that number again.
H.R. 160.
And what does it do?
It was meant to give U.S. lawmakers the ability to have higher transparency in terror financing investigations aimed at scrutinizing extremist groups.
Mr. Brimerick?
We had a
Okay, so that was a long clip, but I was just blown. It's like when you can't be shocked anymore. You know, the UN is involved in this, which we've been talking about that forever. But
Yep.
these lobbyists are basically what have been pushing all of this nonsense that you've been reporting on, and not just these stupid DEI agendas, but sending money to actual terrorist groups. We were funding it. As he said in the testimony, Hamas wouldn't have survived this long. They would have run out of money, ammunition, everything else. We were supplying it. It's crazy.
Every American should be outraged by what's being uncovered. And I just don't understand anybody who isn't just what the fuck with all of this stuff. Anyone who thinks this is okay. And I'm still hearing it. People that think, their whole focus is, they're trying to destroy the government. No, they're trying to uncover all of this fucked up corruption within our government. And it just keeps coming. Like, it's not slowing down.
It's the same people who in 2020 said, we need to dismantle our government because it's systemically racist. And now they're like, they're dismantling the government. How dare they?
Right.
Complete
It's
hypocrisy
just
as
insane to me.
usual.
Yeah, completely. And so, speaking of hypocrisy, remember how when Kash Patel was finally confirmed, and I played that clip of Senator Sheldon Whitehouse where he was giving a press conference outside the FBI building,
Yep.
and he was saying all this shit about like Kash is evil and corrupt and just all this nonsense. And then you said he's probably going to be one of the first to be investigated. Well, I guess karma's a bitch because he's currently facing an ethics complaint over a potential conflict of interest because he approved millions of dollars in federal grants that were funneled into an environmental nonprofit called Ocean Conservancy. And that nonprofit works with his wife and pays her through a consulting firm for another nonprofit that she's the president of.
See, he just made it too easy for investigators because it's like the loud ones are the low-hanging fruit. They're just calling themselves out. But unfortunately, there's so many other people in every corner of the government that are all doing this. They're all taking a piece of the pie. And I remember Matt Gaetz saying on a podcast how what that guy did with like funneling the money to this company that his wife works for, that's what they do. They'll use their wife or their kids to collect the money. But anyhow, Doge posted, quote, a former ICE employee and Biden transition team member joined Family Endeavors in early 2021 and helped secure a sole source HHS contract for overflow housing from licensed care facilities. As a result, Family Endeavors' cash and portfolio of investments grew from $8.3 million in 2020 to $520.4 million in 2023. Since March of 2024, HHS has paid $18 million every single month to keep the PICOS facility open despite sitting empty. With national licensed facility occupancy now below 20%, HHS was able to terminate this contract, saving taxpayers over $215 million annually. So Doge posts this, and then they tagged U.S. Attorney Ed Martin, and he's out of DC, and he replied that he sees it and he's digging into it. But this is just one employee, one, not even a politician, like an employee, one instance of a government official enriching themselves off the wide open border. Here they're just starting this organization and funneling millions of dollars every month.
18 million a month to keep an empty facility open.
Yeah.
That's
Well, if you
insane.
say, oh, we're going to house, overflow of migrants, I mean, it's just, this is what's happening. They're all, I guarantee every one of those DEI contracts and all that stuff that you listed earlier, like the Ukrainian companies, every politician that voted yes probably has a relative
Oh,
that
yeah.
runs that company. It's
Yeah.
just, this has got to be like this worst scam ever. Um, but anyhow, speaking of Cash Patel, I want to read the official letter that Attorney General Pam Bondi wrote to Cash Patel. So, just in regards to the Epstein files, they're saying, okay, we're going to release them. And she said, they're sitting on my desk to review them. Well, as she was reviewing them, it's like, this all looks like stuff we already know that the public has already been given. That's weird. So here's the letter she sends Cash. Dear Director Patel, before you came into office, I requested the full and complete files related to Jeffrey Epstein. In response to this request, I received approximately 200 pages of documents, which consisted primarily of flight logs, Epstein's list of contacts, and a list of victims' names and phone numbers. I repeatedly questioned whether this was the full set of documents responsive to my request and was repeatedly assured by the FBI that we had received the full set of documents. Late yesterday, I learned from a source that the FBI field office in New York was in possession of thousands of pages of documents related to the investigation and indictment of Epstein. Despite my repeated requests, the FBI never disclosed the existence of these files. When you and I spoke yesterday, you were just as surprised as I was to learn this new information. By 8 a.m. tomorrow, February 28th, the FBI will deliver the full and complete Epstein files to my office, including all records, documents, audio and video recordings, and materials related to Jeffrey Epstein and his clients, regardless of how such information was obtained. There will be no withholdings or limitations to my or your access. The Department of Justice will ensure that any public disclosure of these files will be done in a manner to protect the privacy of victims and in accordance with law, as I have done my entire career as a prosecutor. I'm also directing you to conduct an immediate investigation into why my order to the FBI was not followed. You will deliver to me a comprehensive report of your findings and proposed personnel action within 14 days. I appreciate your immediate attention to this important matter. I know that we are both committed to transparency for the American people, and I look forward to continuing to work with you to serve our president and our country. Sincerely, Pam Bondi. So the Attorney General of the United States was asking for something, and the FBI in New York, the field office, is like, no, we have thousands of pages, and we're just not going to tell her about it.
See, that makes sense now because everything that I'm reading in the MSM, it was like, okay, we were so excited to talk about, what's going to come out of these Epstein files. And everything I'm reading is like, it's nothing. It's nothing we don't already know. It's a list of
Yep.
names that we already have. And maybe there's like 3 different names we hadn't heard. But other than that, it's like nothing new. And they're saying, Bondi's an embarrassment because she promised all of this material and it doesn't exist. Oh, it does fucking exist.
Yep, it absolutely does. And I want to read what Cash Patel posted on social media, after receiving this letter. He says the FBI is entering a new era, one that will be defined by integrity, accountability, and the unwavering pursuit of justice. There will be no cover ups, no missing documents, and no stone left unturned. And anyone from the prior or current Bureau who undermines this will be swiftly pursued and brought to justice. If there are gaps in the Epstein investigation, we will find them. If records have been hidden, we will uncover them. And we will bring everything we find to the DOJ to be fully assessed and transparently disseminated to the American people as it should be. The oath we take is to the law and the Constitution, and under my leadership, that promise will be upheld without compromise. So I feel like he's calling it out right here, like you're going to be brought to justice, like the individuals that are hiding the documents. And I hope they are, because you're defying an order from the Attorney General of the United States, like the head honcho.
I'm sure it's like a delay tactic so they can just continue deleting and getting rid of the information because it's like
Yeah.
that whistleblower said, they've just been deleting files and
Hmm.
getting rid of shit. And this is probably just like a here, we'll give her this to keep her busy for a couple days while we continue deleting shit.
And they've probably started deleting stuff. I mean, they've probably been deleting stuff since the very beginning, but
Yeah.
especially, since November when the election took place, I'm sure they're doing all kinds of things. We can't trust anything that comes through, really.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I don't think we're really going to know the full story, but I love her and I love Kash Patel. And I want to mention something else he's doing that I think is really interesting with the FBI. So he wants to increase FBI fitness requirements for agents. And he's partnering with Dana White and the UFC. And so I actually think that's kind of cool because now, Dana White is which board is he on? He's on a board for something in the Trump administration. And now I can't
Wasn't
remember
it
what
the
it was.
AI thing? Like the
Was it?
500 billion? I don't know. You know
Oh,
what? I don't
maybe
want to
that's
say
what
that
I
because
don't
I
know.
don't know.
I don't remember, but I know he's on a board for something. And I think it's really cool that he is going to partner with the FBI for training.
I think it's smart. I mean, these UFC fighters, they study every kind of martial arts. And
Mhm.
yeah, like the FBI that is going after criminals. I mean, why wouldn't you want to have fitness requirements and be able to defend yourself too when you're out in the
Yeah.
field?
Beyond the basic, push-ups, sit-ups,
Yeah,
running, you know.
right.
So anyway, I think it's cool. But something else I think is cool, and I want to get your take on it, is Trump's new gold card visa idea. And I think he announced this on Wednesday. So I want to play the clip and then tell me what you think.
We're going to be doing something else that's going to be very good. We're going to be selling a gold card. You have a green card. This is a gold card. We're going to be putting a price on that card of about $5 million, and that's going to give you green card privileges plus. It's going to be a route to citizenship. And wealthy people will be coming into our country by buying this card. They'll be wealthy and they'll be successful and they'll be spending a lot of money and paying a lot of taxes and employing a lot of people. And we think it's going to be extremely successful. And never been done before, anything like this, but it's something that we're going to be putting out over the next, would you say 2 weeks out? You want to say a couple of words about it? The president said rather than having this sort of ridiculous EB-5 program, we're going to end the EB-5 program. We're going to replace it with the Trump Gold Card, which is really a green card gold. So they'll be able to pay $5 million to the US government. They'll have to go through vetting, of course. We're going to make sure they're wonderful, world-class global citizens. They can come to America. The president can give them a green card and they can invest in America and we can use that money to reduce our deficit. Why do we give out lotteries of green cards? Why do we give out EB-5 for green cards? The president of the United States understands that the right answer is why don't we eliminate the deficit of the United States of America instead? Would a Russian oligarch be eligible for a gold card? Yeah, possibly. Hey, I know some Russian oligarchs that are very nice people. It's possible. They're not quite as wealthy as it is. They're not.
Oh, I love him.
Okay, when I heard about this, I'm like, he is just like messing with the MSM right now, especially with that like Russian oligarch comment. I think he's
Yes.
like giving them material almost, to like come after him because you know that they're just gonna freak out about this. But I don't know. I mean, I don't have a problem with it actually. I think if people are going to come here the legal way and they're going to pay taxes and contribute to our company, what to our company, to our country, whether
It
they
might
they
as well
pay
be a
five,
company under
it kind of
Trump.
he is kind of running it like a company. But whether they pay 5 million, to get this gold card or whether they wait in line like they're supposed to, I'm all for it. Like, absolutely come here. What I'm not for is letting people cut the line and come in illegally, completely unvetted, and then mooch off the taxpayers expecting free housing and health care and food and everything that they've been getting under the Biden administration.
Do you know anything about, he mentioned the EB-5 visa program?
I think that was what came, I think that was similar to this that we had in place before, where I don't know that people paid for it. It might have been like a lottery or something, but it was basically another way for people to get their citizenship like fast tracked. But I don't know
Okay.
enough about it.
I'm looking it up real quick, so I was curious. The eligibility was an investment of 1 million or 800,000 in a targeted employment area. So basically, you could come over here if you made that investment in the United States and created at least 10 new full-time jobs for Americans and work authorized immigrants. So 5 million over 800,000 or 1 million. I'm on board with that.
Yeah. So he's making it harder then,
Yeah,
and yeah, I mean, with inflation, yeah, 1 million kind of is like 5 million now.
pretty much.
But I mean, if you want to come here and work and contribute to the country and pay taxes just like everyone else, then great. I
Yeah.
think, that's what we've always done in this country. And we should keep doing that. The problem is the people that are coming through the wide open border and we have no idea who they are. And we're, footing the bill that needs to stop. But the way that I think Trump could articulate it better, and I think that guy kind of tried to do that, is this gold card is like a way to attract the Elon Musks of the world, the people who are innovative, who are starting companies that will change the world. And obviously, he's trying to bring more companies into America. But if you're the owner of that company, you're going to want to be in America too. So, okay, you can pay $5 million and come. And we should want to attract those types of people. And I know the left gets all bent out of shape, like, oh, well, those rich people, blah, blah, blah. But those are the people that are building businesses, which then creates jobs. And that's what he's trying to do in the United States. So this is just, I think, going to give a little more incentive for those companies to come and invest in the US.
I think that's the one thing the left, like not the elite left, but the mainstream left just really doesn't understand about business. And in terms of, we're catering to the rich people, you need the fucking rich people so that they can pay the mainstream and the middle class. Because if the rich people don't bring their companies here, like you said, like they create the jobs. And you
Right.
need to make it economically worth it for them. It's like all the fucking businesses that moved out of California and out of New York because they couldn't fucking afford it and then ended up going to, Texas and Florida and Arizona because of the tax situation there. So what are they doing? They're creating more jobs in those places. It's the same kind of concept in my mind.
Oh, totally. It helps the middle class, but
Mhm.
the left, they've become the party of, anything but the middle class. So
Yeah.
they're going to have a problem with it. But speaking of leaving California, real quick, I just have to throw this out there because I was really surprised. Chevron, the oil company,
Mhm.
they were headquartered in California like this whole time for the past 140 years. They're just now moving to Texas
Wow.
because it's a hostile environment. I'm like, it's been a
I,
hostile environment for you for a long time, but I mean, better late than never, I guess. They're just finally leaving California.
I don't know how any big corporation is still in California.
Yeah.
Um, But I want to bring up something else that the Department of Defense is doing because I think this is also very interesting. The DoD announced on Wednesday that they will be discharging transgender service members unless they're granted an individualized waiver. So the memo that they sent out states service members who have a current diagnosis or history of or exhibit symptoms consistent with gender dysphoria will be processed for separation from military service. The department only recognizes two sexes, male and female. An individual's sex is immutable, unchanging during a person's life. All service members will serve only in accordance with their sex. So, this memo also clarifies that in order to be eligible for a waiver, it's going to be a case by case basis only. And they're saying this is provided there's a compelling government interest in retaining the service member that directly supports warfighting capabilities. And senior military leaders are being given a 30-day deadline to identify service members under them who have a past or current diagnosis of gender dysphoria. And I think this part's interesting. Transgender service members will be able to stay in the military if they're able to prove that they've gone through 36 consecutive months of stability in their sex with no clinically significant distress or impairment, but they also need to prove that they've never attempted to transition to any sex under their sex. So does that mean you can identify as trans as long as you haven't had the surgery and that you haven't had any kind of treatment or therapy for 36 months? That's the way
That's the
I'm
way.
reading it.
Yes, that's the way that I'm interpreting it. And that's actually really important because I want to like dive into this a little bit because I think that tells a lot about the reasoning behind why they want these people out of the military. And it's not just because they hate transgender people, you know? Like, and I know politics does play into it, don't get me wrong, but the left is going to go crazy over this because it's like, oh, well, they hate trans people. But there's so much more that we need to talk about with whether or not they're able to serve in the military and especially war fighting like Pete Hegseth is talking about. And what I found, thanks to Grok, by the way, Elon Musk's AI, I've been diving into that. I can't wait for our next AI episode. But it gave me all sorts of information because I was asking about the side effects of the hormones that transgender people go on. And so this is like without surgery or any of the other stuff, just the hormones, which is like the first step that they take. They typically experience physical weakness, a decrease in muscle mass, and a decrease in strength, among a laundry list of other side effects like cardiovascular issues, liver toxicity, mood swings, vaginal atrophy, erectile dysfunction, blood clots, and more. The list goes on and on. And so, from what I'm finding, when they start these hormones, you're on them for life. It's not like you just take it while you're transitioning. You're on it for the rest of your life, and it causes detrimental side effects. So if someone's experiencing these side effects, not only does it put them at risk, but it puts everyone around them at risk in the military, because in the military, it's literally life or death. My son just walked in. So anyhow, there's a reason why we have physical standards in the military. And I think, you know, seeing what these hormones can do to your body and your mental health, I mean, it's serious because if you can't keep up because you're feeling weak or you're losing muscle mass, you could die or you could endanger, you know, the people around you. So I just wanted to offer that perspective because I know the left is going to go nuts over this, but no one's going to talk about how these hormone therapies just destroy your stamina and your overall health. And that's a problem if you're in a war zone.
Yeah, and I think Heggs has said something at one point. Um, he was talking about how if you're deployed, like you can't be dependent on these drugs that you have to
Right.
take on a daily basis, you know, to maintain your hormone treatment. And I
Well,
think
if you
that's a
go
big
off of
thing.
them, that's
Right.
when you can have these like suicidal tendencies and all kinds of really severe things happen. And yeah, if you're in the middle of war, like that's a problem. We can't use resources to go and send you back to get medical care. It's just, it shouldn't be happening in the first place. You wouldn't tell someone who just had surgery or is on all of these like mental health drugs that they can go. I mean, I don't think they're allowed to do that. They have to go through a whole mental screening.
I was just going to say I should have taken some notes on this and I didn't. I didn't know we were going into this part of the conversation, but I think there's
Sorry.
a
Of course, I get
laundry
us off
list.
topic.
No, no, it's good. And I think there's like a laundry list of medical disqualifications for the military.
Yeah.
And a lot of them have to do with medications and stuff that you're on that you can't take while you're in the military. And so it's like if they can disqualify people for the most minor physical health problems or minor mental health problems, this to me is significant. So it should be a
Yes.
disqualifier.
I wish I had the clip. I heard it might have been Caroline Levitt. I don't know. Someone was made a comment and they said if you can get disqualified for having like flat feet,
Yes, flat feet. It's
then you
true.
should be disqualified for having, these, what was it, 20 some odd side effects that are common, by the way. I mean, we've seen this in talking about the people who are detransitioning and just how detrimental this is on your body.
I'm just looking really quick online. You could even get disqualified for certain dental issues, mood disorders, allergies. You can get disqualified for allergies,
Yeah, but I mean, think
history
about it.
of
It's
bone
like
fracture,
if you were in charge
acne. You
of,
can get disqualified for acne.
are you serious? Okay, that's a little extreme. Like,
That's what
come
it says.
on. But I mean, really though, do you want to have to worry about your people that are out there fighting that something's going to happen, or do you want to make sure you have the most fit, capable people to do the
Mhm.
job?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is a choice. This isn't like, oh, I have to go on these hormone therapy. Like this is you're choosing to put your body through this. So, not a smart decision to choose something like that and then go into the military.
Okay, I have to read a couple more. That first list, I'm not sure how accurate that was, but I'm looking at one in particular that says you can get disqualified for sleepwalking, seasickness, and claustrophobia.
Okay, well, I'd be disqualified immediately. I have like all of those.
Wow. Oh yeah, we should dive into this another time. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be a fun episode.
But speaking of like health and wellness, I have to bring up RFKJ because we really have not talked much about what he's doing yet. And there's a couple big things so far. And one is on Tuesday, he paused a $460 million contract from the Biden admin with a company called VaxArt. And now they're creating a new COVID vaccine in pill form. And 240 million of that money was already authorized by Biden for a preliminary study. There are 10,000 people that were scheduled to begin clinical trials for this study on Monday. And I'm laughing because I can't believe anybody would sign up for this shit, especially after seeing all the complications from the COVID vaccine. But contrary to the left believing that RFKJ is like Mr. Anti-vaxxer, he made a statement saying that vaccine production needs to be reviewed because of failed oversight during the Biden admin. He said he does believe it's crucial for the DHHS to support pandemic preparedness, and he looks forward to working with VaxArt. He just wants to make sure that they're producing safe, effective, and fiscal-minded vaccine technology. And I agree with that.
I just think it's so funny that there are people at this point that think the COVID vaccine stops COVID and is going to help them. I don't even think the MSM is saying that anymore. So I mean, you're just completely brainwashed at this point if you still think that. But you know what else? They always are going after RFK. He's anti-vax, whatever. I came across a clip on TikTok and I think it was a 60-minute segment from like the 90s. So long time ago, where they did this whole study on the flu vaccine. And it was showing how it's virtually like not doing anything to keep elderly people from dying. And in fact, more people were getting sick from the flu that were vaccinated than weren't. And clearly that never went anywhere because we still are getting pushed the flu vaccine. But it's just the hypocrisy again. Like they were looking into this stuff in the 90s. Now, I mean, dare you say anything about a vaccine and they're going to call you, some kind of Nazi.
I think he's also pausing a flu vaccine. And I didn't add any notes on this, but I think in addition to this COVID vaccine, like the MSM is up in arms because we're heading, it's flu season or whatever, and he's pausing a flu vaccine. But the biggest story that's getting all the attention this week is the MSM is slamming him for downplaying a measles outbreak that's currently happening in West Texas, actually quite near where I live, about an hour away. But it's apparently the worst measles outbreak in the United States in the past 30 years. There are reportedly 120 confirmed cases of measles in multiple counties across Texas and New Mexico, and most of them are children. And the last story I saw, 18 people are currently hospitalized for severe respiratory complications, and one child has died. And this is the first measles death in the United States since 2015. So health officials are saying, this rapid spread is because of low vaccination rates in Texas, particularly in rural communities. But they're leaving out the part that it's a Mennonite community. Okay. So this is near the New Mexico state line. And RFK was asked about it. And he said, okay, we're paying attention to it. We're watching to it. We're going to follow the case. And I think he said something like, this is not uncommon. And so the MSM is going after him, like, how could you say this is not uncommon? Your statistics are all wrong. You don't know anything. And I guess, because he didn't jump to immediately mandate vaccines, or I think someone challenged him, like, you need to go to Texas and persuade these people to vaccinate their children. And, because he's not doing this, he's now being touted as like completely terrifying and anti-vax, and he wants all the children to die.
He's been in office for what, like a whole week,
Yeah.
but of course it's his fault. Like he's been in office for a week. It's his fault that this happened. I mean, come on. Like this was in a Mennonite community, which they're known for not vaccinating their children. That has nothing to do with RFK. And the MSM, they should be looking at themselves. I just want to point out, because for the first time in my entire life, I question vaccines now, but it isn't because of RFK. It's because of what I personally experienced with COVID and with them lying and hiding the side effects. Now I question everything. So they have themselves to blame for people like me that are all of a sudden questioning vaccines. That has nothing to do with RFK and everything to do with the media lying to us during COVID. But they keep pushing this narrative that RFK is anti-vaccine. And he really truly is not. All of his children were vaccinated. All he wants is the safety data on vaccines to be publicly released so that people can be informed, so that you know the true safety profile. And it's just funny to me that they're up in arms about measles, because I don't remember the media giving Biden a hard time when millions of unvaccinated people came into the country. And I don't remember anyone throwing a fit when these immigrant children were allowed to attend public school with no vaccination records. Like that was all okay. But now RFK is the bad guy because he simply suggested that maybe we should be transparent with vaccine safety and research it and let the public know. That's it.
Yeah, it's just like I don't remember the media giving Biden a hard time when at the height of COVID, which was, the absolute worst possible pandemic in the entire world, according to the left. We had thousands and thousands of protesters out there with no masks on, and nobody seemed to give a shit about that. But I couldn't go to a restaurant with two people and eat dinner, at a table 6 feet away without putting on a mask to go to the bathroom. So
Yeah.
again, all of this is such bullshit to me. But since we're talking about food, I want to bring up something else, because I guess we weren't talking about food. We were talking about health, but
It's
health,
all
food, it's
ties
all
together.
related. It's all related. So I just saw this yesterday. There's a proposal for new restrictions on food stamps. And this is a bill that's being presented by House Republicans. And what it would do is add work requirements for any males between 18 and 65 who don't have kids and who are able to work. And so Rep. Pat Fallon spoke about this with Fox News. And the comment that he made has everybody up in arms because he said, quote, you know what a message for these kinds of folks. If you're able-bodied and you want to milk the taxpayer, those days are over. Get off the couch, stop eating the Cheetos, stop buying the medical marijuana and watching television. You're actually going to contribute now because the American taxpayer is fed up. And I agree. I have been fed up with this. I've been saying this for years. People are going on social media saying he's hateful and he's a privileged white man who gets paid with taxpayer dollars, so he has no room to speak. I mean, I guess that part's true. He does get paid with taxpayer dollars, but he wants people to starve and he has no compassion. And it's like, I want to know your take on this because I do agree with him. And I've been saying this for years. Like, if you are physically and mentally capable of working, you should not be supported by American taxpayer dollars, especially because I've seen firsthand how people take full-on vacations and buy giant flat screens and all sorts of other nonsense with their EBT cards. And so, no, I don't think we should be giving free money to able-bodied men with no children.
I have been. Can you hear my kids in the background? Oh my gosh. Hold on a second. Okay, I switched rooms because my kids were getting a little rowdy. But I completely agree. I've been saying that for years too, that, if you're able-bodied, we have so many government jobs just that anyone could do that you don't need an education for. Why not give those jobs to people that, need a little extra help in our community, but have them work for it, have them contribute something? If they're able-bodied, why is everyone against that? I just don't understand the logic.
Right. I don't either. And I get, like, just because you're able-bodied doesn't mean you can get a high-paying job that you can support your family. So I understand assistance to some extent, but I do think there's a lot of truth to what he's saying because, again, I've seen it multiple times. I saw it throughout my entire law enforcement career, and it always made me so angry that people are just being given free government money to do fucking nothing.
Yeah.
So I think it needs to stop. Yeah, so let's totally switch gears here. And we don't have a lot of information yet, but I got to bring this up because it's just fucking weird. So, um, the very bizarre deaths of Gene Hackman, his wife, and one of their dogs. Okay, so this happened, I think they were found yesterday in their New Mexico home. So he's been retired for a long time. He's 95 years old. He's been like out of the scene, I guess, for like 30 years. He doesn't act anymore. His wife was 64, and they had 3 dogs in the house with them. And so far, it's just weird to me because first, law enforcement says there's no foul play. And I think one of the daughters actually came out and said, "Oh, it's got to be from carbon monoxide poisoning." Yeah, no, that doesn't seem to be adding up either because they had the fire department come out, they had the gas company come out. There's no signs of any carbon monoxide leak or poisoning. The front door was open and not secured. 2 of the dogs, when they came in, were like alive. One, I guess, was running around outside and one was inside. And then here's where it gets weird. One dog was found dead in a closet of the bathroom. That's where Betsy's body was, in the bathroom. And there was an open pill bottle of like prescription meds with pills scattered next to her body. And she was like lying near a space heater. And then Gene was found in a mudroom near the kitchen. And like his sunglasses were on the floor. And they were saying like it looked like he fell. So 3 different rooms of death, right? And reportedly, it took over 12 hours to identify the bodies, which also makes no sense. And they got a search warrant. And the search warrant, the details that have come out about the search warrant say that Betsy's body was, quote, in a state of decomposition with bloating in her face and mummification in her hands and feet. Okay. This is where it gets weird because police are reporting that they likely died the day before. At least that's one report that I read. But then neighbors are reporting they hadn't seen the couple for weeks, like I think 2 weeks. But the two surviving dogs appeared to be totally healthy. So it's not like they were starved because they were dead for 2 weeks. And it's just like there's a lot of really weird shit here. And I want to know, Stephanie, what do you think? And are you seeing anything yet on TikTok? Because I know that's where conspiracy theories abound.
So far, I haven't seen anything on TikTok, but I'm not really on like the true crime side of TikTok. I gotta say, when I first heard this story, the thing that shocked me the most was that Gene Hackman's 95. I'm like, when did that
Yeah.
happen? I feel like I just saw him in a movie, but I guess it was an old movie. Um, this whole thing, it just sounds like the beginning of a crime movie, like something that has lots of twists and turns, like a whodunit type of like mystery or something, because none of this makes sense. And you are a detective. Like, is that normal to see mummification of someone's hands and feet? What does that even mean?
What I don't understand, like I've seen plenty of bodies that start decomposing or not, the bloating will start within hours of death. And decomposition, I don't think it happens. If it was like, oh, yesterday, she wouldn't be decomposing. Like the one report I read where they said they believe they died yesterday, that wouldn't make sense. Why would she be in a state of decomposition, but he's not? Like
Yeah.
that doesn't make sense at all. I didn't see anything written about what the dog looked like or what Jean looked like. But the part that's really fucking weird is the mummification in her hands and feet. Like mummification also does not happen overnight. And I don't see how you would have, I'm not a medical expert, but I've never seen decomposition and mummification happening at the same time.
Is that even a
I could be
word that
wrong.
people use, like detectives
I've
would
never
use? Mummification,
Not
you
unless
know?
you found a body that was like, hundreds of years old, maybe. I don't
That's
know.
just so
Again,
weird. Like
not the expert,
mummification is
but
like that's a whole process that we don't I like
and
I don't know. The whole thing is
is
just
it
very bizarre. And they're
is
not
it
saying
because
foul play or anything.
no, they're not saying, well, now it's suddenly suspicious. The only thing I could think of maybe with the mummification because she was by the heater or something, maybe it just was on for however long of time and dried up her dead flesh. That's a terrible way to say that, but that's the only thing I can think of. But it's the pills, the open pill bottle, them being in two different rooms, a dog being in the closet. Like it's just
Yeah.
weird. All the
Yeah.
details. And my first thought was like, does he know something about the Epstein client list? Like, is there a twist to
Yeah.
this, or is it just a really sad circumstance? And I guess we'll find out more later. But
It definitely is a bizarre story, but I gotta say, like that crossed my mind too. Like, what did he know? Like
Mhm.
what did he get involved in? Was he like on the Diddy list or something?
Right. Yeah, it's just really weird.
Oh man, that's crazy. He was a really good actor too.
He was. Yeah.
Well,
It's sad.
another set of bizarre things is happening. I feel like I'm just gonna take us on a whole other path now. But I was thinking about this and I'm like 2025 is turning into the year of like airplane emergencies. I got to come up with a better
Mhm.
phrase than that. But it's kind of like how 2023 was the year of train derailments
Yeah.
because things just keep happening left and right and I want to know what the hell's going on because this does not seem normal and now I feel like even the media is calling it out as like this isn't normal. But anyhow, on February 24th, a Delta plane leaving Atlanta headed for South Carolina just filled with smoke. The cabin was like full of smoke to the point where they had to go back to Atlanta, like turn the plane around, land, and then do an emergency exit where those blow up like slides
The
on the side of the plane
slides.
come out and people had to evacuate because there was smoke everywhere. So that was really bizarre, right? Well, I don't know if it was the same day or like a day before, another Delta flight that was leaving Los Angeles for Sydney had to do the same thing. They had to turn it around and land back at LA in an emergency landing because there was smoke in the galley. I mean, never heard of this before, but now there's two incidents like around the same day, both with Delta. Then, of course, there was that Delta plane that flipped upside down in Toronto that we talked about last week. And apparently, with that, Delta's offering each passenger $30,000. But I think they're getting attorneys and trying to get more. So just a lot of weird stuff, especially with Delta. But then this was crazy because I saw the video. Everyone should go look it up. It was such a close call. In Chicago at Midway Airport, a business jet entered the runway unauthorized as a Southwest airplane was landing, and they almost collided. But luckily, the Southwest pilot was actually paying attention and he pulled up and went back into the air to avoid the collision. And it was a close call. I mean,
Mhm.
if they would have hesitated even a second more, this would have been deadly. So, anyhow, I'm not getting on an airplane anytime soon because something's not
Yes.
right.
Yeah, I did see that video and it was like, holy crap. Yeah. He when I watched him like take off again, I was like, shit. Um, there has to be an element of sabotage here. Like
That's what I'm
there
thinking.
has to be. This shit is just too weird. And my mind immediately goes to, is it sabotage because of all the changes that Trump is making in the government? So, now they're gonna blame, like, you can't blame this on the FAA when it's problems with the planes. Like, they're not in charge
Hmm.
of the planes themselves. Those are private corporations that own these planes. And it's just like these incidents are not consistent. They're just fucking weird. There's so many different things going on. And it has to be sabotage. Like, or else
I
this
think
is
it
just
is.
really weird accidents.
I think it is sabotage. And I didn't really think about this until now, but there were also two separate stories throughout the week that I heard about where they had to do emergency landings because when they went, you know how you can like pull up the plane's Wi-Fi? One of
Yeah.
the Wi-Fi addresses or whatever said there's a bomb on the plane. This happened two different times for international flights where they had to then do an emergency landing. They checked everyone's phones, couldn't figure it out because whoever did that was using like a scrambling device where you can't pinpoint the IP address, which seems
Mhm.
kind of advanced. So I'm like, is this China like messing with our computer system or I don't know, like a terrorist or
I was
something?
That's what I was gonna say. Or are these like internal terrorist attacks?
Yeah, right. I mean, it could be anything, but I just think it's one thing after another, just like the train derailments. And it's like, okay, I get that there's accidents and things that happen, but this just seems
Weird.
excessive. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Now I'm on to that. So another rabbit hole to go down.
Oh,
All
so
right.
many.
Well, I'm hoping that you'll keep track of this Gene Hackman story because now I'm very curious what happens. So well, you'll have to
Yeah.
keep us posted. But anyhow, I hope that everyone has a great weekend and we'll see you back here on Monday with whatever latest updates we have. Thanks for tuning in.